Please help support the channel by visiting our Amazon store, affiliate link below. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Buck Theater, and you know, Ghostbusters, as I've oftentimes said, is simply the gift that keeps on giving. And it's one of those ones, too, I do wish would stop, because there are many other things within movies to talk about, but I feel now like I have to always talk about this whenever it comes up, because when the cast and the director and the studio are so utterly dishonest in how they, take what went down, that you just kind of have to stop and go, no, hold on. Let me remind you of what all went down. Let me remind you of how you played this game and you lost, but you still just can't take the L and move on with your career. You gotta keep going back. Now, in an interview with Vulture, Paul Feig was it that he regretted his remake, that it turned into a cause. Not that the movie itself was a, solid remake of a fantastic film from 1984, one that took both the artistic creativity with a reboot, but also stuck true to its origins, one that worked with the original creators in order to make sure it had that awesome Ghostbusters flair. No, as we learned from the Sony email leaks of 2014, that's all a lie. Amy Pascal went to Paul Feig 3 times to get him to direct it. On the 3rd time, he finally said yes, and he pitched his idea for the movie. And what he pitched became the movie. And it was as bad then as it is now, and the movie is a direct result of that, constant pushing for him to do something he clearly didn't want to do. So in part, I will defend Paul Feig a little bit here. I will defend him a little bit here when I say he did not want to do it. And he was asked to do it by a friend. Repeatedly asked to do it by a friend. So for that, I give him a smidge of credit. What happened afterward, the fact that Amy Pascal signed off on this god-awful piece of trash, and then everything else from the promotion and the marketing of it, and how they were attacking the fans for being critical of the fact that it looked like ass, no, that credit kind of goes away. You get a deficit of credit on this one. So in this interview, when he brings it up, he talks about how he doesn't want a movie to turn into something that it wasn't. He didn't want it to become this rallying cry, so to speak, saying, I think it kind of hampered us a little bit because the movie became so much of a cause. I think for some of our audience, they were like, what the fuck? We don't want to go to a cause. We just want to watch a fucking movie. It was a great regret in my life that the movie didn't do better because I really loved it. It's not a perfect movie. None of my movies are perfect. I liked what we were doing with it. It was only supposed to be there to entertain people. It's not a perfect movie. None of my movies are perfect. I liked what we were doing with it. It was only supposed to be there to entertain people. And that's true. It was there to entertain people. That's why it was supposed to be there. And there are people out there, I don't quite understand how or why, that were in fact entertained by this movie. Still trying to figure that one out, Paul. I'm still trying there, buddy. I've tried watching it a couple times. Every time I think maybe it's me. Maybe I was in the wrong headspace. Maybe the movie isn't as god-awful as I think that it is. No, it still remains painfully mediocre. And you could tell you didn't care. That was the biggest problem here is you didn't care about the movie. You cared to defend it, though, when it came time to attack the critics, because they were attacking your art with criticism and critique, and you couldn't take that at all. I mean, you go back to the first trailer. The first trailer had a gaffe even from Sony saying back 30 years ago, 4 scientists saved the world. We know for a fact it was 3 scientists and a regular Joe. That was Winston's entire character arc for the first film. We know that the movie wasn't set in the same timeline as the original Ghostbusters, so having that be the opening thing for the first teaser trailer of your movie really set it off on a negative tone. So much so that even Sony re-released it for its UK trailer, where it said 30 years ago, 4 friends saved the world. Again, changing up that particular, non-fact, and then also still not correcting that this wasn't set in the same timeline. We know all these things. We know how Melissa McCarthy, went on to the Graham Norton show and were making jokes about destroying, male's childhood. We know that Melissa McCarthy was on many talk shows talking about how this movie was just, like drawing out the haters and people who never left the basements that their moms owned. I mean, comments like that, constantly doubling down on the rhetoric. that the movie was good, constantly doubling down on the rhetoric, that it was simply the haters that were turning this into something more than it was, trying to claim that this was a feminist movie when it simply wasn't. It was a PG-13 schlock comedy with horrible jokes that stopped cold every 15 minutes to literally pull nostalgia out of its ass and cram it down your throat. And you know this, Paul, because you made this. You know this because when you went back for the April 2016 reshoots of the movie, the couple weeks of reshoots to finish it up before its July release, by the way, cutting it painfully close to the release of that too, you acknowledged the YouTube credits or the YouTube comments in one of the reshoots. You made sure to have that be in the movie so then people would know that you were onto them. That is not a good filmmaker. That is a person who simply cannot take criticism and is and lost the joke. All right, you shouldn't have made it. You were the wrong person to make it. You're a subversive filmmaker. You take genres and you turn them on their ear. You did it successfully with Bridesmaid. You did it successfully with The Heat. You did it with Spy. You failed here. So here it is, year and a half, some odd later. The movie's been out. The movie's in the bargain bin in a lot of places, right? Black Friday's coming up yet again. The movie, I think, is going to probably be $4, and maybe they'll give you money for taking it. And they know that they're not going back to this. Ivan Reitman has stated that they're making another feature film, all right? He let it slip at Comic-Con. We know that it's not going to be with you. Dan Aykroyd has come out, right, and publicly chided you. Maybe his numbers weren't the most accurate in terms of the finances that were spent on the reshoots. He said 30 to 40 million, when in reality it was like 4 million. But no one on the team wants you back. You don't even want to come back at this point. But yet you can't stop bringing it up. Here's what you do, Paul. Here's what you do. When someone asks you your thoughts about your failure 2016 Ghostbusters, you simply sit there and go, we tried to make a good movie. Ultimately, some audiences liked it. Some audiences did it. Now I'm off doing other things. Or I appreciate the opportunity and I hope the fans find some love in it or whatever. You couldn't even do that in the beginning. You had to attack the audience. And we've learned many, many, many times over the years through many different PR kerfuffles, you never want to attack the audience because all it's going to do is bite you square in the butt, which is precisely what this did here. I hope we get another Ghostbusters movie. If we are going to do this and Sony is hell-bent with Tom Rothman, hell-bent on making us stick with this current cast, just keep Kate McKinnon, but put her on a leash, because, putting a camera in front of her and this saying improv is not how you want to control her comedy. She's a very funny woman. Holtzman was a funny enough character, but when you just put the camera and point it at her and everyone go take 15 for lunch or a smoke break and let her do whatever she wants, and then you intercut that together, it failed from a comedian perspective. And at the same time, I have to have another bone to pick here. Because of you letting Chris Hemsworth, be funny in that movie, we got Thor Ragnarok. Now, people out there might disagree, go, Thor Ragnarok was great. It was, but the comedy of it was inspired because of Ghostbusters 2016. And that, my friends, I feel really kind of hampered the Thor movie as a whole. That's my criticisms with that, though. You could think entirely differently, and that's up to you. The point I'm trying to get through here is this movie was bad. At this point now, just thank people who enjoyed it and move on with your career and stop bringing it up. Because then I can finally stop having to smack you down with what you did every single time you open your mouth about it. But I want to know what you guys think. Year and a half later, have your thoughts maybe gotten better about the movie? Have your thoughts maybe done any changes? Have you wanted to go back, watch it again and been like, maybe I was wrong? Or is it still the same steaming pile of garbage you thought it was back in the summer of 2016? Let me know.